This is the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
I believe that the truest measure of any society is how it treats those who are least able to defend and to speak for themselves. Who is more vulnerable or more innocent than a child?
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All have been under attack, and perhaps none more than life. Today, we talk with someone who has dedicated herself to building a culture of life and ending abortion. Lila Rose, the president of Live Action, is here. Also, Sarah Palin delivers a Hanukkah message, and the governor speaks out about the horrific school shootings in Connecticut. And just ahead, our weekly commentary with Sarah Steelman, a special edition. You don't want to miss this one. Sarah Steelman has a big announcement, so stay tuned for Steel Resolve. First, our special guest. I like to call her a pro-life rock star. Lila Rose, the president of Live Action. Welcome to the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
You've been such a champion for life and an all-star for the unborn, and you've done so much here for those who don't have a voice. And just recently, you took your show on the road, to say the least. You were involved in the International Symposium for Life. Tell us about the trip.
Sure. Well, it was a wonderful trip. We were first in France and then in Rome, and this was the first international conference they've had in France. It was held in southern France in Biarritz. And there were leaders there from the pro-life movement from all over Europe and also from Canada and the United States, just to discuss what can be done about abortion in Europe and how to take some of the passivity and even the timidity, the fear surrounding abortion and being willing to speak out about abortion in Europe, and how to find practical solutions to really exposing the truth about abortion and then advocating for human life and for human dignity.
Now, you really hit the national stage thanks to your undercover work in abortion centers. You've exposed Planned Parenthood and other evil groups for what they really are and what they really do. What led you to this path in life, a path of protecting life?
Well, I was raised in a wonderful family. I'm one of 8 kids, so that should tell you a little something about, I was raised pro-life in that, children were a gift, and, we were taught to love and respect life by, my wonderful parents. And as a young teen, as a young girl, I found out about abortion, and I had kind of an encounter where I found this book in our home called A Handbook on Abortion, and I was a very young girl. I was 9 years old, and it was this old book in one of our shelves in our living room, and I stumbled upon it, read it, opened it up, and it had images of children who had been the victim of abortion. And for anybody who encounters, the image of a child in even the first trimester, you have fetal development is so amazing. You already have arms and legs and little faces that are beginning to form at just 10 weeks. And when you witness and understand, a graphic image, what abortion really is, what it does to a child, to a human being, it's hard not to be moved. And children especially, they're not buying the political nonsense or the euphemisms or the false words about, choice and fetus and all. I saw that for what it was, and I was so touched, and I thought, how could anyone do this to a child? Is this real? Is this really happening? And as I got older, Kevin, I learned more, and I began to study the issue, and I just began to, dedicate myself in small ways to the pro-life movement and say, okay, what can I do? How can I make a difference? And I, ask God, God, how can I be used to protect your children in some way, to advocate for them? Mother Teresa says that the greatest destroyer of peace in the world is the cry of the innocent unborn child. And that was something that touched me deeply, and I just thought I have to find a way to make a difference for this cause.
These 4D ultrasounds that they have now are just amazing. I saw something the other day with some little ones yawning in there, and I know I have a picture of my son. He was smiling at one point, and he smiles now too a lot, and we just laugh about that. We said, this guy was smiling, from the start. But
how wonderful.
Lila, it's amazing to me that you've received death threats for your work. It's just crazy, isn't it? You get death threats for trying to prevent death.
Well, there's a lot of hostility around this issue. There's a lot of hurt, Kevin. There's a lot of people who've been hurt by abortion who haven't healed, who haven't come to grips with what really happened, the death of a child. There's a lot of political anger. There's a lot of money involved in the abortion industry, a lot of really crazy ideology. So in the end, I have received death threats for some of our undercover work and our our exposés, but it's not, it's all part of a deeper problem, which is that people don't really understand. So many people have forgotten the meaning of life, that life is such a gift, that it's from God, that we are created with human rights given to us by God, and that these rights should be protected, and the first right is the right to life, and that everybody's life is a precious gift. There's no way to quantify it or to, put a price tag on it, and every child's a gift to the world. And so, when people forget these things, these first principles, then they so many other things go wrong, and that's one of the reasons for so much of the moral decay and the problems in our society today. So it's part of a bigger problem, but I believe that with education and with some of the movement that's happening in our country and beginning to happen in Europe, there's a new day coming soon, and it's already happening, where young people, especially people, are coming to see the truth, and they're wanting to change the way they vote, the way they live, and wanting to be a part of this movement for sure, which is just fantastic. And we're just seeing a lot of momentum and a lot of growth right now.
Well, that sounds like good news, because I was just going to ask you, where do we stand right now in the fight for life? And also, how big of a blow did we suffer this past election with Obama winning a second term and the Senate remaining in the hands of Democrats?
Yeah, good question. Well, it is very tough politically, absolutely. Our president is the most pro-abortion president that the United States has ever seen. He, even as a state senator, he voted 4 times against legislation that would have protected children who survived abortion attempts from infanticide. He voted against that life-protecting legislation for infants. But that said, what can be done at the state level, Kevin, what is being done at the state level in states like Ohio or even Texas, in Oklahoma, it's fantastic. And there's a movement in the grassroots, especially of young people, who are realizing how dire the situation is getting in our country. With the economic problems, but that's really just a consequence of a deeper moral decay in our nation, where people have forgotten what the purpose of government is, what the role of what the meaning of life is, and so we're having all of these issues. So I'm very hopeful. The polling is leaning pro-life. Our movement, Live Action's movement online, is growing. Our Facebook page is bigger than Planned Parenthood. We're over 420,000. So these sorts of things are encouraging, and we're just going to grow the momentum, even with the hard national political climate. There's a lot of things at the local level that we're doing and can do.
Just how out there is Obamacare when it comes to the attack on life? And is it the states that you just mentioned that are going to have to be the ones to step up here and stand in front of things?
Yeah, Obamacare, the ramifications should be catastrophic. Particularly in how much power the government is given in legislating what is worthy of, what kind of life, whose life is worthy of receiving health care. And, the potential to have the government involved in abortion is huge. Already, Obamacare, through the HHS mandate, is forcing religious institutions to purchase, things that violate their conscience, contraception, but also abortifacient, like the morning after pill. So this is a huge problem. It's an attack in so many ways on liberty and on life. And, the states definitely should, and they are protesting. They understand economically how terrible this could be, but also, when it comes to these civil liberties. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting 4 years, that's for sure, Kevin, but now is the time for action. And in your community, wherever you are, getting involved with the local pro-life organization, absolutely, the local pro-freedom organization, fighting to protect some of our First Amendment rights when it comes to religious liberty. This is something where every American needs to get involved, every person, because our liberties are under attack. Our children, their lives are under attack. The unborn child, and we need to be active at the local level and really take over at the local level and at the state level to make sure that we have, politicians who are going to defend our civil liberties and the right to life.
Lila, there are many who are pro-life, but they may not know what they can do to advance their beliefs and advocate for babies. So what do you suggest? Find the links and go ahead and get involved with your local chapters?
Absolutely. Go to liveaction.org. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, share our videos, educate yourself, educate the people around you, and get involved at the local level. Make sure that you know what's going on locally. If there's not an organization, then start an affiliate of one, or get involved to start one at your parish or at your church. I mean, there's so much you can do. Our website, liveaction.org, has guides and other links to other organizations. But absolutely, make sure you get involved, because there's certainly a role for every person to play in this fight. And we need everyone to be involved in this movement, because this is something that affects all of us, and it's part of all of our responsibility and really a privilege to get to be a part of taking back America and bringing us back to faithfulness to the right to life and to the fundamental human rights.
And I think we need more faces like yours out there, young, energetic women, to really reach the college campuses and young people who may not know all the facts when it comes to the unborn. You know, they're told a lot of different things, as you know, on college campuses and before that in schools and whatnot. So to have someone they could relate to like yourself, I bet that goes a long way.
Well, everyone has a role. We need no matter your sex or your age, there's a role for you. Certainly young people, you got to get involved. We need every young person, men and women, to be involved, girls and guys. It's not something just for young women, it's something for all of us. So, liveaction.org, there's some ways to get involved, but make sure you educate yourself. I can't stress that enough. And once you get to know the facts about what's happening in our country, the facts about abortion, these different issues, you can start to educate others.
Tell us, Lila, about the situation in Ireland. A young woman died, and now pro-abortion activists are exploiting that death?
Yes, it's a horrible attack right now globally on Ireland. There was a woman that died named Savita Hapanavalar. I'm saying her name a little wrong here, but she was from India. She was visiting, and her death has been used by abortion advocates to push abortion onto Ireland. Ireland is one of the only remaining abortion-free countries in the European Union, and they're hated for it because they want to stand for human rights. And so a very pro-abortion journalist, who's actually the daughter of an abortion activist, wrote an article breaking the story about Savita, claiming that Savita had died because she was refused an abortion. Well, the facts are that it's not even clear that Savita ever asked for an abortion, that abortion is never medically necessary, abortion is not a medical treatment for any illness, that Savita was actually miscarrying, and then, because of an E. coli infection, got septicemia. It's totally separate from the miscarriage in that she had that infection. And so there's so much misinformation about this case, and it's being used, this tragic death is being used to spawn a global hysteria to force Ireland to force abortion on the Irish people. So this is an outrage. The United States is no stranger to the tactics, the misinformation, deceptive tactics of abortion advocates. We had our own hysteria in the early 70s when Roe v. Wade became, the law of the land, where abortion advocates basically made up completely false statistics about back alley abortions. They used the case of Jane Roe and Roe v. Wade, this poor woman saying that she was raped, she needed an abortion. Jane Roe later on recanted that she never even wanted an abortion. But abortion advocates used this poor woman and her tragic story to push abortion on the United States in the Supreme Court decision. So this is a tactic they've used again and again. They're exploiting Savita's death, and the abortion industry only stands to gain by putting abortion in Ireland. Planned Parenthood stands to make money off of this and push their radical ideology forward. So there's a wonderful website called thelifeinstitute.net. It has all the facts in Savita's case. Liveaction.org also has links to the truth about Savita, but it's something to be aware of because, what abortion advocates are doing internationally, it does affect us here at home. Often the United States is being asked to pay for abortions internationally, like the Mexico City policy in Mexico, sending money to Mexico for abortion. So there's just a lot of, a tangled web of pro-abortion interests all over the world pushing their agenda on countries, and some of them coming from the United States.
Just another reason to get educated. You're going to hear lies again and again, especially on this topic. It's unbelievable. So, Lila, what do you think of the Palin's work when it comes to pro-life issues? Not just Governor Palin and Bristol Palin choosing life, but also the way a positive message of life is spread by these remarkable women.
Yeah, well, I think it's just beautiful, and I was so happy when Governor Palin, back in when she was running as on the ticket as for vice president, and then just how much of a spokesperson she's been for the pro-life cause, and just the example of her life, being open to life, having these beautiful children, having a child with disability, and loving him so publicly, and also pursuing advocacy in politics to stand up for these children. I mean, it's just beautiful, and women and men, our responsibility is to protect our children, and definitely Governor Palin is making that example, and it's wonderful to get to see. I know it's inspired a lot of young women.
Well, Lila, you are really a hero to many, especially those who don't even know just yet what you're doing for them. So, listen, thank you so much for being here. God bless you and all your efforts, and Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Kevin. Merry Christmas to you, too.
Lila Rose, an impressive young woman doing yeoman's work for the unborn. To learn more, check out liveaction.org. This past week, Todd Palin and Governor Palin offered their wishes for Hanukkah to all those who celebrate the Festival of Lights, saying their thoughts and prayers are especially with our friends in Israel, who in a special way embody the Hanukkah message by being a light of freedom in a region too often darkened by chaos and oppression. May that light shine ever brightly. Then later in the week, an unspeakable act of evil in New England. A gunman killed 20 children and 6 adults at an elementary school in Connecticut. Governor Palin called on Americans to pray. The governor's statement read as follows, quote, "My heart goes out to the families of the victims of this terrible tragedy in Connecticut today. Words can't express the horror everyone feels in seeing such evil manifested against innocent children. Nothing could be worse than the murder of innocent children. Let's all pray for the victims, their families, and the whole nation," unquote. Well, everyone here at SaraNet Radio also offers our deepest sympathies and prayers to all those affected in Connecticut. May God bless the victims. Now, our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. Many of you who listen to SaraNet Radio follow Missouri politics. Joanne Emerson, the Congresswoman from the Missouri 8th District, is resigning after 16 years in office. She has served the 8th District well, and I wish her the best of luck in her next endeavor. The law in Missouri requires a special election set by the governor to fill her position. However, instead of primaries, the law requires that each of the respective parties nominate their candidates. That process will take place over the next couple months. I am excited about this opportunity to serve the people and want you all to know that I'm actively seeking the nomination from the 8th District Congressional Committee. The people of the 8th Congressional District deserve a strong conservative Republican to represent them in Washington, D.C. I know this district well because I live here. I have served the people as their state senator, and most importantly, I've raised a family here. I respect and love the strong, independent-minded people of the 8th. They are fighters, and so am I. And we know that the fiscal crisis in our country is hurting our families. We know that huge centralized federal government that overregulates our farms and businesses is stifling our dreams. And we know that a $16 trillion national debt is stealing our children's future. And we know that we must stop this. Abraham Lincoln, the great man of the people, said this, "America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. There is a better way, and I intend to continue to work and fight as hard as I can to help restore the heart and soul of our nation by returning power into the hands of the people." This is Sarah Steelman for SaraNet Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. And don't forget, the Palin Update, including Steel Resolve, is now on demand and available for download. So just head to SaraNetRadio.net, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio. Visit SaraNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. I want to thank Sarah Steelman and everyone here at SaraNet Radio. Thanks to Lila Rose, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.